meteorological forecast for the week of November 19th, 2023. Before I say anything else, let me say this. On Saturday, November 25th, at exactly 11 a.m. Eastern Time, or thereabouts, we will have the live forecast for December. Not 11:30, at 11 a.m. on Saturday, November 25th, we will have the live forecast for December. So if you can make it, that would be great. All right, now let's talk about this week, the week of November 19th. It's a week of shifts and changes, a shifty kind of week. We're going to have the Sun, Mars, and Ceres all leaving Scorpio and going into Sagittarius. Pretty interesting stuff, right? Okay, so what do we have going on? First of all, before we get there, on the 22nd is the day that the Sun jumps into Sagittarius. So before we get there, 19th, the Sunday, 20th, Monday, 21st, Tuesday, we have these planets at the very end of Scorpio and thus giving us the extra bit of scorpionic intensity. So Scorpio season is not giving way so easily. We have an extra push of scorpionic energy. And then we have as well, these planets are going to be in a nice sextile relationship to Pluto in Capricorn, at the very end of Capricorn. And so Pluto being the ruler of Scorpio, we get a little more extra. What does this mean? Well, on the one hand, I would say that there is going to be a lot of retrenchment, a lot of that scorpionic holding on, won't let go, refusal to change, sticking by your guns, and maybe cutting off the nose to spite the face. Pretty much see that on the collective level, but some individuals are going to be feeling that vibe as well. There is constructive energy, though, in this aspect, in these aspects, which suggests that if we can finally let go, then some real productive changes could be made. Hopefully, I think especially the Pluto Ceres aspect is the one that gets my attention, although, getting support from the other aspects as well. Pluto Ceres seems to say maybe we can make a little progress in some way or another on issues to do with climate change, the environment, the food supply, and other cereal issues, we could say. All right, so we have that going on. Then, yes, on November 22nd, we have the Sun goes into Sagittarius, and we really officially start Sagittarius season. Mercury's been holding it down in Sagittarius for a while now, but it really starts when the Sun gets in on, what is that? It's Wednesday, the 22nd. That's right before Thanksgiving in the United States. Here's an interesting thing. Thanksgiving was moved to the fourth Thursday in November, sometime in the late 19th or early 20th century. And there's a peculiar little twist to this, and I don't think anybody consciously thought of it, but it's an interesting one. The fourth Thursday in November guarantees that Thanksgiving will always fall in the sign of Sagittarius. It can't fall in Scorpio. I don't think it can fall in Scorpio. It's sort of forced to be right at the very beginning of Sagittarius. And it's a very Sagittarian holiday. It's all about bounty and enjoyment and having more. It's, the inflationary more of Sagittarius and Jupiter really, really expresses itself in Thanksgiving. And then, of course, at the other end of Sagittarius, Christmas, but we'll talk about that at a later date. So we do get this push of Sagittarian energy right at midweek, and we if you're in the US or if you're inclined to celebrate, I recommend a turkey-free holiday, but that's just me. If you're inclined to celebrate, make some great pumpkin pie and things like that and really enjoy yourself, then the Sagittarian energy has your back. And of course, again, in the US, what happens right after Thanksgiving is we have the Black Friday, when people go running to the malls at like 3 a.m. and stuff like that to go get the best deals, go spend their money and start shopping for Christmas. Well, people have started shopping for Christmas already. But I mean, it is in a consumerist society. It is a very Sagittarian day, the day after Thanksgiving, is it not? I mean, this really embodies the whole Sagittarian feel, for a consumerist society. We have the Thanksgiving and Black Friday really make quite a pair. Okay, so that's what we have going on. Now, the interesting thing is that as these planets get into Sagittarius, the first thing that they do is to square Saturn, right? So we have this big, here we come sort of energy. The sun gets into Sagittarius on the 22nd. First thing he's got to do is square Saturn. And Saturn is stationed. Saturn's not moving anywhere this month. He's moving less than a half a degree throughout the entire month of November. He's really stationed. Theoretically, we would say powerful. And so the sun comes in, squares Saturn. It's like, here we're going to have a big time. It's going to be great. We're going to go to excess. And then Saturn goes, well, maybe not. Then the same happens with Mars and eventually Ceres. There's this Mars on the 25th, on Saturday, the 25th, right around the time that we're having our discussion, will be Mars square to Saturn on Saturday. The whole back end of the week has this kind of feel, though. Here we are in Sagittarius season, and there's Saturn saying, well, just rein it in, mister. So it's that feel. I would say that Ceres probably gets along best with Saturn in this respect. It's well, we could talk about it all day. I bet it has something to do with, again, it's going to have to do with the environment, probably the oceans, considering that Ceres would be squaring Saturn. And we also have Mars square Saturn. Now, Mars square Saturn on Saturday is an interesting one, because the rule for Mars and Saturn, these are the two malefic planets in traditional astrology, and you can understand why. And when they get together, they're kind of a little bit better than they might otherwise be. The general rule for Mars Saturn is don't multitask. Pick a task, focus on it, straight down the line, and you can make great progress. Mars is exalted in Saturn's sign of Capricorn. And that's because the energy, that warrior energy, that competitor energy, that fierce going forward kind of feel, benefits from having the structure and direction of Capricorn, or in this case, Saturn. But Saturn's in Pisces, which is a dual sign to begin with. And Sagittarius is a dual sign, right? We've got the horse below and the man above, right? So that's a dual sign. So we have these dual signs, and they are clashing with each other. It's an interesting variation on the typical Mars Saturn aspect. Does it mean that you can't multitask and that you should focus on one thing? I mean, probably, but you might find yourself doing more than one thing. I think that the strategy for, let's say, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, with all of these squares to Saturn and so on, I would say view it as an active time. We're building towards the full moon. Pick your tasks, prioritize, and yeah, you may wind up doing more than one thing at a time, but try not to spread yourself too thin. Don't take on too much. Again, a lot of us are going to be in holiday mode, which has its own potential for spreading ourselves too thin and overindulgence and so on. You may be split between having some work that needs to get done and wanting to just enjoy yourself. There could be multiple opportunities for fun, and you got to pick one. Something along those lines. We are again building towards the new moon on the 27th, the full moon on the 27th in the sign of Gemini, but we'll talk about that next week. Another thing, though, that I want to point out for those of you that are this far into the forecast, is that the node of the moon, the north node of the moon, is conjuncting Eris, the goddess of discord, which means that the south node of the moon is opposite Eris, the goddess of discord. Now, this has really been in orb, throughout our entire eclipse season. October started the real celestial shit show, and it's continued all the way through November. It should be, well, we'll talk about that on the December forecast, but it's been within orb this whole time, but it's going to be exact, as far as you can ever be exact about the wobbly nodes of the moon, on Friday the 24th. It's certainly a peak of this connection between the nodes and Eris. And I feel that what this is doing is just channeling the goddess of discord's energy into the collective. The nodes in this case are serving as access points. Don't forget, the nodes stir up the eclipses. The nodes in transit open up, people come into your life and they go out if it's hitting your personal chart. When the nodes hit Eris, I feel that maybe we're exchanging one type of chaos for another. We're seeing a big shift in discord. And we have seen, we have actually over the last couple of months, the shift in discord has been rather remarkable. And you can see this. I try to not watch the news too much, but you certainly have seen this in U.S. politics with the House of Representatives and all of their shenanigans. And you've seen it in England. And of course, we've seen it in the collective level. Notice the shift in the collective from the emphasis on the war in Ukraine to the war in Israel, right? We have this shift between the focus. So it doesn't take away from anything. We're only dealing here with the collective focus. We're not dealing with what's a real problem. We are dealing with real problems, but what we're seeing is a shift in where the collective which real problem the collective is focused on. And I've given a couple of examples here, but you'll see it in a lot of different places. We have a new set of things to deal with. I think if we go back to August, September, if you want to go back and watch those forecasts, one of the things I had said was we probably don't have anything new on the table. We've still got to deal with what we already have, but we're not going to get anything new on the table. And then October and November, that changed and said, no, we are going to get some new stuff to deal with. And we did. And I feel that that continues through the end of the year. I feel that that's something that we're sort of bound to be shifting our attention, if not our priorities. So look and see how that goes. Keep that in mind. That thing about the nodes and Eris is really, that's a little bit more of a thought question than it is a forecast item. But I think it is a good thing to have on your mind as we go through things. Will things settle down? Well, we have a full moon next week, and we'll talk about it then.